the facts are the facts. Patrick Mahomes does not lose in that building. He has not lost in that building. And he kind of owns the Raiders in Vegas. And when it comes to the Chiefs, they don't have a whole lot of chances for revenge games. they just win so many football games. The last team that beat the Kansas City Chiefs was this Las Vegas Raiders team. Antonio Pierce, interim head coach. They obviously had the interim bump. Things seem to be a little bit rocky there in Vegas. I don't know how things are going to work out, but they've got some stuff to work out. Well,
I think it'll work out.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, getting you ready for Chiefs versus Raiders in Vegas. It's a Sunday game, and you are getting a variety of voices here from KC Sports Network, getting you ready for this game. 5 things to watch is presented by Batchelder Family Farms. You can now order Batchelder's fresh farm-raised products online in just a few clicks. You can also find their bison at the Overland Park Farmers Market and the River Market on Saturdays, where they sell pasture-raised beef, bison, jerky, and eggs. Finally, you can visit their farm store for the freshest cuts and locally sourced products. Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. That's at 20810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. And it is well worth the trip out to Belton. Maddie, I know you're fixing to come from North Carolina to Belton to get some of that meat.
Yeah, I'm going to have to make that trip. Nothing like next time I come back, I have to shoot over to Belton, get some of that meat there from Batchelder Farms, because I can't wait to try some more.
It's delicious. We had some of it at the golf tournament. Little tri-tip action there too. It was ridiculous. But anyways, thank you for joining us today. We are getting you ready for this game against the Raiders. 5 things to watch. You're going to hear from all kinds of different people here. But we start this thing off, and our thing to watch is the Chiefs in the red zone. Maddie, last week the Chiefs come out of the bye week. They work on some things. That typically is a good opportunity for them to evaluate some of the early season struggles and try to alleviate them. And they'd had their struggles in the red zone before the bye week. They come out of the bye week strong, 4 of 5 in the red zone. Do you think that's a blip? Do you think that's what we can start expecting to see more of? What do you think?
Yeah, it was important to watch because I believe going into last week's games, the Chiefs were second to last in the NFL in touchdown conversion inside the red zone, right? Like I believe they were second to last. Then they go into this game against the 49ers and they score 4 touchdowns on 5 trips to the red zone. That's even kind of tricky because the one time they don't score a touchdown was the tipped interception, and that was actually thrown just outside the red zone after a sack. But nonetheless, they 4 times out of the 5 that they got inside the 20, they scored touchdowns. You would like to see them, continue to replicate that and to build off that going forward. So how did they do it? It was a lot of the running game. It really was. They were leaning on that 49ers defensive front all game long. But then down when they got to the red zone, they really kind of quit trying to force the ball in the tight windows. They quit trying to make everything happen through the air. And they just kind of let the big guys up front really push around and injured and not super stout 49ers front. Hey, the Raiders are missing their best defensive run stopper in the middle. It's not a defensive line that is overly stout. It's not a linebacker group that is overly stout. You really might see that kind of same game plan show up in this game if once the Chiefs get in that condensed area, just push them back with the big guys up front who are playing really good right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And like this offensive line in this run game is not taking negative plays. They're putting themselves continuing to move forward. It may not be at the explosive clips that you're hoping for, but they're churning out 4-yard carries, 3-yard carries, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-yard carries. They're kind of operating in a 3 to 10-yard box, but they're doing it effectively. And, I think that same trend applies to the red. You keep moving forward. You keep getting those positive yards in the run game, and you just keep moving your way down closer to the goal line. So that kind of was the theme of this last week. And the run game really shined. Kareem Hunt, 22 carries. After going for 27 prior to the bye week. Those two numbers, the 27 carries, 22 carries, would be over over Isaiah Pacheco's career high and tied with Isaiah Pacheco's career high for carries. Pacheco had 22 carries in one game. That's the most that he's ever had. So this team is definitely leaning on their run game. They're leaning on Kareem Hunt continuing to get those positive yards. But, that we'll see if they're able to continue to run the ball. But we really
fun stat. Yeah. I know. So I got another fun stat from NFL Next Gen Stats. If you look at rushing success rate, it's just in the red zone, right? So this is getting ahead of the sticks if it's still first down. This is getting into the end zone. Like this is what is considered a successful run. The Chiefs have 2 players in the top 10 in red zone successful run rate, and Carson Steele is second with an 87.5%. Kareem Hunt is ninth with 58.3%. It actually gets crazier because 3 guys ranked ahead of Kareem Hunt. One of them is the guy in first, Jerome Ford, only have 3 carries, right? So if you put a carry limit of, just saying, hey, over 5 carries, all of a sudden the Chiefs now have 2 players inside the top 6 in terms of successful runs inside the red zone. So that goes to your point. There's no negative plays. They're picking up positive yards. They're making things happen. I just really think in the past, the Chiefs have really struggled to just pound the rock, to really do the power run game and convert that to touchdowns in the red zone. That hasn't been that hasn't been the case this season. So they need to lean on that more and the rushing attack to keep it working. But I do think there might be a little bit more meat on the bone to get the passing game to follow suit.
Absolutely. That's, I think, the big question is, yes, they can run the football. They've shown the ability to run the football throughout the entirety of the season, and they used it and weaponized it in the red zone. But this team, obviously, they are going through some struggles and some injuries with the receiver position, but they need to find some consistency in the passing game when it comes to the red zone area. And good news, Maddie, they brought someone in that should contribute to that red zone, passing game for the remainder of the season. That's DeAndre Hopkins.
Absolutely. I think losing Rashee Rice when they did, and not that the Chiefs' red zone offense is great, but losing Rashee Rice when they did felt like they kind of lost the guy they were going to utilize a ton in the red zone of the passing attack, right? It's no longer going to be Travis Kelce running all these little routes right to the goal line. They were going to use Rashee Rice, and they were going to get these crossers, and he's going to create yak when they're in the high red zone. So they kind of lost that player, and I think they've had to figure out how to reinvent themselves, and they don't really have that great red zone receiving option up to this point. It's a lot of smaller wide receivers. It's a lot of guys that have some build-up speed, but not guys that are getting open in these short areas. So you go out and you get somebody like DeAndre Hopkins, who historically has been great as a red zone receiver, and it's not because he's necessarily creating a ton of space, although he's a great route runner. He's a guy that can win these contested catches. There can be a tight window and you still throw him the ball, and he's going to make plays. So, it's going to be interesting, especially this first week here against the Raiders. If DeAndre Hopkins plays, it sounds like, they're trying to. If he plays, I do wonder if that's where the package of plays that he's involved with become more important. It's down in the red zone, giving this the receiving option.
Yeah, when you look at how teams install their game plans typically. So your first day of practice is going to be your first, second down offense. Then you're going to move on to third down. Then you're going to move on to red zone. Those are kind of the progressions that you get. So DeAndre Hopkins misses that first practice. Not to say that they can't get him in on first and second down. I'm not saying that, but they might be able, if you're going to try to create a limited structure for DeAndre Hopkins in this game, a easy way could be the practices he's actually going to be there for. And this is an area of the field that the Chiefs could really, use him. So maybe you see him getting a little bit involved in the third down stuff, catching up. And then red zone makes a lot of sense too, especially I think, the low red, you can install a fade pretty quickly, pretty simply. You can get a couple of those, fade options kind of dialed in there a little bit, and you can kind of start working there. So that could be a place where you get a little bit of DeAndre Hopkins, kind of involved in this passing game in week 1 of his time here in Kansas City. Anything else in the passing game, Matthew?
I mean, when you just get down to that red zone, yeah, it's all about creating matchups. You all of a sudden lose some space. You can't run clear out routes. You can't back safeties up, so everything gets condensed. So it becomes either timing or a player has to be able to get open on his own. And I think that's what we've seen the issue for the Chiefs up and down the field, is they struggle to have a guy that gets open on his own without the schematic help of Andy Reid. You go out and they just traded for a guy that can do that. So I think later in the season, we'll see Hopkins play a bigger role on third downs or in specific plays throughout the whole field. But right now, like you mentioned, they're getting some red zone reps. Now you're going down there. We might see a fade route. We might see a slant in the red zone. These are things the Chiefs don't often do, because I don't think there's a ton of trust in the capabilities of most of the receivers they have had to pull those off. So that's what I really got my eye on, is if Hopkins is out there, what kind of routes not only does he run, but do they have, a one read play that says as long as he's remotely close to where he's supposed to be, they're just going to throw it and see what happens? Because we just don't see the Chiefs do that a ton.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. So the kind of caliber of player that DeAndre Hopkins has been, the clout he has as an NFL receiver. Yeah, this is a guy you can trust on some simple concepts like that too, some ISO routes, essentially, if you want a little slant, a little fade. Would love to see them try to get him involved in that capacity. We're going to get Matt Hamilton involved in a big capacity. He's our next thing to watch. What say you, Matt?
The thing I'm looking at in this game is the Chiefs' run defense up against this Raiders' run offense. And when you go back to that Christmas Day game last year, which I know we don't like to do, Chiefs fans, but when you look at that game, the reason the Raiders were able to control it beyond the 2 defensive touchdowns, it was their ability to run the football against this Chiefs defense. But Spags' squad this year has been especially stout against the run. Really, when you look at the numbers after week 1, after, Lamar racked up some yards with scrambling later in that game, when you look at the pure run defense numbers from week 2 on, the Chiefs are second best in the league defending the run, just 71.6 yards per game. They're second best from an efficiency standpoint. Opponents are rushing for just 3.25 yards per carry. And it's a big reason why they also have the second best third down defense in the league right now. They're putting teams behind the sticks and forcing them into more third and long situations. And I think, especially with this matchup, it's going to be the key because the Raiders passing game is super shorthanded right now. Minshew's getting the start with Aiden O'Connell hurt. Obviously no Devontae Adams anymore there. So the passing game is going to have a really hard time, I think, against this Chiefs secondary if they're put in more of those third and long situations. The Raiders offensive line also super banged up heading into this one. So if the Chiefs run defense can keep it going the way that they have so far to start this year, I don't see any way the Raiders can win this game if it's put on Gardner Minshew's back. So, Kent, that's what I'm looking at. I'll toss it back to you for more.
Thanks to Matt Hamilton, 1/3 of Matter Days on the KC Laboratory on Wednesdays, getting you ready for the game preview show. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
I love a great deal just as much as the next guy, but I'm not going to crawl through a bed of hot coals just to save a few bucks. It has to be easy. No hoops, no BS. So when Mint Mobile said it was easy to get wireless for $15 a month with the purchase of a 3-month plan, I called them on it. And you know what? It turns out it really is that easy to get wireless for $15 a month. The longest part of the process was the time I spent on hold waiting to break up with my old provider. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSN5. That's mintmobile.com/KCSN, the number 5. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSN5. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, presented by Batchelder Family Farms. And of course, if we're going to be talking about Batchelder, we're going to be talking about beef. And the guys from that football show are here to talk about the beef of the week. The Raiders are a mess.
It's Beef of the Week here on 5 Things. Tucker Franklin, Matt Verram, hanging out, sponsored by Batchelder Family Farms. Look, if you don't know, now you know. Batchelder Family Farms has the best beef in Kansas City. You can find them out in their store over in Belton, Missouri, 2810 South Prospect Avenue, Belton, Missouri. You can get their beef, whether it's the Downtown River Market Farmers Market or the Overland Park Farmers Market. You can have it delivered within 30 miles of the farm, and you can order it online anywhere at batchelderfamilyfarms.com. They got a bison starter pack going on for the October deal. You got still have some time to get that in. You get a lot of meat there for $100. You can get all your bison essentials as the Chiefs are going to play the Bills here in a little bit, so make sure you stock up to have that bison meat on hand for your tailgates, for your parties, your watch parties. This game is in Buffalo, so you probably won't be tailgating for it, but maybe you are, and you need some bison meat. to celebrate. But Matt, we've got some beef. It's a long-standing storied rivalry that just seems like every single year we get another page in the book of Chiefs versus Raiders. Obviously, what happened with Trey Taylor this offseason with the Kermit puppet is going to play into this one. That's really what the beef of the week is right now. Feels like we are primed for a Patrick Mahomes revenge game.
Yeah, the beef of the week is Patrick Mahomes against the entire city of Las Vegas, basically. I feel like that's where this is headed. The Raiders have done everything possible to really, 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 really piss them off. I'm going to go ahead and guess that's not going to end well, because if I had to list right now the 5 best players on the Raiders, it's Max Crosby, it's Brock Bowers.
Yeah.
I have no idea who's third, because Wilkins is out. He's on IR. Is it like Robert Spillane? I don't know. Colton Miller? The point is they're not good. I don't think they're going to have a whole lot of ability to really make Mahomes eat his own, I guess not his words, but to eat his intentions. I don't think that's going to happen in this game. I truly don't. I think the Raiders feels like they're going to get roasted in this game pretty good. If they don't, I give them a lot of credit. But yeah, I think Mahomes is going to go somewhat flat on nuclear in this game.
We talked about this on That Football Show, and the facts are the facts. Patrick Mahomes does not lose in that building. He has not lost in that building. And he kind of owns the Raiders in Vegas. And when it comes to the Chiefs, they don't have a whole lot of chances for revenge games. They just win so many football games. The last team that beat the Kansas City Chiefs was this Las Vegas Raiders team. Antonio Pierce, interim head coach. They obviously had the interim bump. Things seem to be a little bit rocky there in Vegas. I don't know how things are going to work out, but they've got some stuff to work out. Well,
I know how they're going to work out. I know exactly how they're going to work out. Not great. The Rams and the Raiders, for the people who missed it, played last week, and the Rams won 20-15. And it was 20-12 on the 3 minutes left. And the Raiders had a 4th and goal at the Rams' 4-yard line. And they false started. And so I moved them back to 9. And Antonio Pierce was like, you know what? Let's kick it. That's about how it's going to work out. That right there is the house. You're less than 3 minutes left. You have a quarterback with 4 touchdowns and 8 picks who you bench for Aiden O'Connell. And you're like, no, you know what? Let's stop him and get the ball back. And with 1:11 and no timeouts left, 89 yards away, I'm feeling good. And you're not going to believe what happened. He threw another interception. So, yeah, good times. The Raiders are not good on either side of the football.
Correct.
And I would expect that the Chiefs, who let's be honest, in games like this at times, it's like sleepwalk city. I don't think they're going to sleepwalk in this game, because I think they are going to want to prove a massive point against the Raiders. I expect the Chiefs to put it on them pretty good in this game.
Given the circumstances, these two teams have beef. And if you want beef, Batchelder Family Farms has you covered. Visit batchelderfamilyfarms.com. Or look, just go visit them on the farm. They got a lot of great stuff at the farm. 2810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. You can find them also at the Overland Park Farmers Market, the Downtown River Market Farmers Market. And look, if you order online, you can have it delivered within 30 miles of the farm. We love our friends at Batchelder Family Farms, but we love Ken Swanson, kinda. We're going to submit Ken.
Thanks to Matt Verderam and Tucker D. Franklin. Appreciate them. It's time to go to Benny's picks. Benny, what you got?
Ken, thank you, brother. What's good, everybody? Welcome into this section of 5 things as we get a chance to go through 3 plays for underdog for Week 8 of the National Football League as your Kansas City Chiefs head to Las Vegas. And hopefully the Chiefs get lucky this weekend, but hopefully you guys do as well over on Underdog. Looking for a bounce back week this week here on the program, but feel confident it's a good matchup for Kansas City. Love the opportunities that are on the board for this weekend. Also, if you haven't used that promo code KCSN over at Underdog, you can score up to 1,000 bonus cash on your first deposit. You also get an Week 8 free pick. Dak Prescott higher than 0.5 passing yards. Should be sustainable, like the matchup for him, especially. We just saw San Francisco a week ago. They are in a bit of a mess. And I believe Prescott can get 0.5, 1, 2, whatever you want to call it. But let's get to the matchup at hand. I got 1 on the Raiders side and I got 2 on Kansas City. So let's start with the Raiders. Gardner Minshew set to start this week for Las Vegas. And let's go higher than 0.5 interceptions. This is a game script play, right? You have the Chiefs approaching the area of a double-digit favorite. Minshew turned the ball over multiple times last week. That's always kind of been an issue for him. He'll make some throws that you don't want him to make, and sometimes he gets lucky with them, but more often than not, especially with them losing Devontae Adams in that trade to the New York Jets, that wide receiver core is taking a major hit. So Minshew's going to have to force the ball more likely than not. Chiefs defense, especially in the second half, has continued to be rock solid. It's one of those games for Kansas City where we've talked about it so many times. If they play to their strengths, which right now is being an effective run game and also a high quality defense, also capitalizing on the ability to take the ball away. Remember, the Raiders, according to Sharp Football Analysis, have turned the ball over on 19% of their possessions. That is worst in the NFL. So let's back Minshew here to go higher than 0.5 interceptions. The numbers say it's likely to happen. The game script says it's likely to happen. And frankly, Minshew's performance says it's likely to happen as well. Let's move over to the Kansas City side. We'll go with the other quarterback in this matchup, and that's Patrick Mahomes. He's been running a lot. We saw that move on Fred Warner last week that I don't want to say got him into a little bit of trouble around the league. And I know he tried to clarify it this week, but that was an extended run. And it was also in a matchup that they thought he might need to run with that pass rush. I get it. Max Crosby's still with the Raiders. He's had success against Kansas City in the past. But again, if Kansas City can get some points early, then I'm not looking at this as a Mahomes needs to run type of game. And so we're looking at that number of 18.5. Yes, they've been successful on run plays, and he does have the ability to extend plays with his legs, but he's not looking to run if he doesn't need to. And even with the lack of receivers right now for this team, Mahomes is not going to go and take off and run just because it's convenient for him. If it's to extend plays and they're down late or it's a close game, yeah, obviously the game script could indicate that. But 18.5, especially knowing that it's not likely to happen this week, I feel like the number is reasonable. And so I will go lower than 18.5 rushing yards for Pat Mahomes. Remember, they flexed their muscles a little bit offensively last week, and I think they want to do that again and try to keep Mahomes in a clean pocket against the Raiders. Last one on the board. And I love this one because not only is it beneficial for Kansas City, but it's also beneficial to anybody that's been playing on Underdog. And that's the red zone rush promotion where you get a 20% boost for touchdowns. And so let's go with Kareem Hunt to go higher than 0.5 rushing receiving yards, receiving touchdowns, I should say. Talked about Kansas City and how dominant they've been in the run game. 60% of their touchdowns this year have come by way of running the ball. That's the third highest rate in the NFL. And also, according to Sharp Football Analysis, the Chiefs lead the NFL with a success rate of 49.7% on rush plays this year. When they're in the red zone, they trust their run game. And it's not to say they don't trust Mahomes, obviously, but you saw Kareem Hunt get that goal line work inside the 5, inside the 10 carries. Between the Raiders' issues in stopping the run and Kansas City's willingness to be active and to be efficient and get what they need in the run game, they're going to be perfectly content. So I know that the number right now on Underdog is maybe a little bit below value for Kareem Hunt, but you get that 20% boost. It bumps it right back up and then some. So Week 8 Underdog picks for Chiefs and Raiders. I like Gardner Minshew to go higher than 0.5 interceptions. I like Pat Mahomes to go lower than 18.5 rushing yards, and then take advantage of that red zone rush boost, 20% for touchdowns. Kareem Hunt of your Kansas City Chiefs, 0.5 rush and receiving touchdowns. Let's go higher. Don't forget, use that promo code KCSN if you have not signed up already. Get your free pick, Dak Prescott's to go higher than 0.5 passing yards, and also your first-time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. There's NBA in addition to NFL, all sorts of opportunities. It is a lot of fun. I played a lot of it when I was on the other side of state line earlier in the week, and I hope you guys get a chance to experience it as well, along with a Kansas City Chiefs victory in easy, dominating fashion. With that, Ket, back to you, my friend.
That's our guy, Ben Heisler, doing a terrific job with Benny's picks. Appreciate him, as always. Also appreciate these gentlemen, the Only Weird Games fellows, closing things out, talking about the best defensive linemen in football and the rest of the pass rush.
Thank you, Kent, Joshua Briscoe, and Nate Taylor from Only Weird Games with you here to look ahead to Chiefs and Raiders. Nate, we gave away the game a little bit on Weird Games that neither of us, Seth included, not terribly worried about what the Las Vegas Raiders are going to bring in general on this game. One specific thing that we both wanted to spend a little time on, to keep an eye on from the Chiefs' perspective, is in the pass rush. No Aiden O'Connell, so Gardner Minshew is back as the starter there in Vegas. What's Chris Jones going to do to that poor man?
Terrible things. Just terrible things. You know, you never want to be like too simple with the analysis, but sometimes it's just like unmistakable. So I just, got on my little, Google machine and realized that Gardner Minshew in 6 games has already been sacked 17 times. Whew! It's a lot, kids. And so, because George Karlaftis plays so well against the 49ers, what happens if Karlaftis gets going, if Chris Jones gets going? I mean, we don't think we're going to see Mike Dana, of course, but the Chiefs have enough, I think, in Karlaftis and Jones to really terrorize, Gardner Minshew, who's obviously battled some injuries to some point this season, and I don't want to see Spencer Rattler, Josh. I don't want to see him one bit, but he should keep his arm loose.
I don't want to see almost anything from the Raiders offense, if I'm being completely honest. What I do want to see, though, when the Raiders offense is, technically forced to be on the field, is a guy that you asked Steve Spagnuolo a question about on Thursday. He spun it out in a little more of a vague, bigger picture kind of thing. You said Spencer Rattler, by the way, and meant Desmond Ridder, which is not better.
God dang it, I did it again.
Better.
When I saw your face, I was like, I said the wrong guy's name.
Actually, I have seen Spencer Rattler play. We've actually watched Spencer Rattler play briefly against he didn't play against the Chiefs in that game. He was the next man up.
But he played. Was he the one who played against the Broncos?
After that, yes.
Like, my God.
Yeah, it hasn't been a great viewing experience.
Yeah.
Neither has been any Desmond Ridder viewing experience, and he just got there too. So that could be particularly bleak. But anyway, you asked Spags about Felix Uzama on Thursday, and with no Mike Dana, and they clearly would like for Felix to build on the momentum that he's build on, not even momentum. Back to momentum discourse again. Just continue to have good performances when he ends up having real opportunities. He had one last week, played pretty well against the 49ers. In particular, I think I mentioned this maybe on Tuesday's show. I, on several occasions, forgot that Mike Dana wasn't playing. Yeah, and that's a little bit of a knock on the season that Mike Dana had. He hasn't been a super impactful edge rusher, but also when Charles Omenihu is back, you'd like to have Dana be your third guy there anyway. But ultimately, as a stout edge setter against the 49ers, I thought we might notice that Dana wasn't out there. Felix played pretty well. I would love to see him kind of be able to stack some pass rush moves and put together a little more of a completely well-rounded performance against the Raiders. And I'm open to the idea of it happening, and that's further along than I've been for Felix in a while.
It's possible. It's definitely possible because, again, the attention is not going to be necessarily on him.
Right.
And look, he played pretty well against the run against the 49ers. So it leaves him to not be a liability, which, of course, will give you chances to rush the passer and maybe be more effective. He does have a sack this year. The Falcons didn't block him, so credit to him. Who knows? The Raiders can do the same thing. Gardner Minshew's already been sacked 17 times in season. So I think Felix needs to continue to show, that he can be a reliable contributor in a limited role. Because like you said, Charles Beane's going to come back maybe by a month or so. The team has not put Mike Dana on IR, so his return is obviously somewhat in question over the next couple weeks. But yeah, I just think the Raiders should dedicate 3 people to Chris Jones, because Chris Jones on Thursday, I should say, Josh, Chris Jones sounded like a man who did not forget that the Raiders beat the Chiefs on Christmas Day. He sounded like, in his mind, he should get 2 sacks in this game. And I mean, the Chiefs defense is playing excellent, and he didn't even have to be like amazing against the 49ers. He was still dominant, but like, yeah, I just think this is a game where, for as much as the Patrick Mahomes discourse is going to be sort of the front line, I do think the secondary story is Chris Jones not forgetting that the Raiders are the Chiefs' arch enemy, and that they were the last team to beat the Chiefs, and that he should dominate the line of scrimmage anytime the Raiders choose to pass the football.
It's got to be a terrifying place for any quarterback to be there opposite Chris Jones, especially with the way that line has performed and the way the Raiders' offense has gone. Certainly, obviously, no Devontae Adams to target this time around for Gardner Minshew. It's probably going to be a long day at the office for the Raiders, which should mean a nice viewing experience for the Chiefs. Theoretically, at least. Around here, we tend to assume the games get at least a little weird.
That's the fellas at Only Weird Games. You can hear them on Tuesdays and Thursdays on KC Sports Network Live, or you can find them whenever the download hits the podcast channel. That is going to do it for 5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, presented by Batchelder Family Farms. Appreciate everyone that is listening, watching, supporting KC Sports Network. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.